All right, welcome back, everybody, once again to Inside the Matrix. We're so happy to have you here with us today, whether it's a month from now or tomorrow or whenever, morning, noon, or night. Our guest today is Karen B. She'll be very familiar to a lot of you. She's a show host herself, and very adept and expert at that. She's also an expert researcher and someone that I really enjoy listening to. And she's just around us. She's a smart lady. So we like to bring smart people onto the show and let them share their wisdom with us. So Karen, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Now I know you do live streams all the time, and with Mark Sargent, right? And
Yes.
those shows are end up being very entertaining as well as informative. So we enjoy that a lot. Of course, one of our mutual interests, I would say, is cosmology, and so I'd like to jump into that a little bit. A lot of people will freak out at just the thought of it. If we say, we're not living on a spinning ball hurtling through space at zillions of miles an hour. And of course, the programming is so intense and so strong that people actually want to get violent over it. It's just crazy
hmm
how that is. And I'm sure you've experienced some of that. But maybe you could share with us how you came into some concepts like that, and or particularly that one of the Earth, and what this place really is that we live on.
Well, it was just purely by accident. I just had a Facebook friend sharing flat Earth videos show up on my feed, and this was back in 2015, early 2015, and there really wasn't very much about that. It was still kind of new as far as like the YouTube scene was going on,
Hmm.
and I ignored it at first because just like everybody else, I thought it was nonsense. I thought it was ridiculous. I was like, "Come on, really?" And I kept seeing him share stuff. And I was like, and one day I thought, "You know what? I'm gonna watch this video and then I'm gonna debunk it and then I'm gonna make fun of this guy and then I'm gonna unfriend him." Like I had it all planned out, right? And so then I watched the video, and at the end of the video, I was like, well, that's not funny. Because now I'm actually wondering what's going on here. And it was a flat earth, flat water video. I don't know if you're familiar with that channel, but
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, he's
Came
still
out, I
around.
think, shortly after Mark came out with his videos, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's been around for a long time and it's a really, he's got a really good way of making these videos where he just, points out certain discrepancies with the globe model and he says, "Now just don't believe me." He's like, "Keep going and doing your own research and ask questions." And he just kept saying that in the video that I watched and I thought, "You know what? I am gonna figure this. This is garbage," right? So then I spent the next couple of weeks, trying to debunk it, and I was, going, and there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't very many flat earth channels. I didn't even find Eric Dubay. I had no idea who Eric Dubay was still at that point, or Mark Sargent. I had only watched, those few videos, and I think I started stumbling across like a couple of David DITRH videos, and but it was very sparse, you know. And then I ended up going and spending a lot of time because there wasn't so much content coming out, like going to space.com or NASA and like all the places, that are telling you Earth's a globe. And I started really, really looking at all that stuff. And I was like, this is really fishy. This is really fishy. And I used to love space and I used to love, all those stupid documentaries on the Science Channel with the and I started to realize when they were talking about, oh, that's all they ever show you is cartoons. And I was like, they do only show us cartoons and I watch them all the time, And then, it just went from there. And finally I was like, man, there's no way. There's no way we live on a globe. It's just, and then it became like really scary because I had two very small children and I just looked at my children. It was like 2 and 4 years old. And I was like, what do I tell them? That was the real scary part.
Yeah. Um, I know myself, I became aware of the NASA nonsense, fairly early on, and people would point out the anomalies in a lot of the photos and the videos and multiple shadow angles and things that absolutely proved that their footage was bullshit.
Hmm.
And then the whole thing came out about Stanley Kubrick being the one who actually directed that whole fake moon landing and all that. And so, there's still a lot of debate these days, even now, as to whether the moon is something you can actually land on, whether
Yeah.
it's, I don't think it is, but I don't know. It could be some kind of a superstructure, could be some kind of alien base or Earth and alien base. There's all these things that go around, and we don't really know what the heck it is. But we can be sure one thing, that NASA is at least the public NASA is a total fraud, completely.
Hmm.
And then there was that documentary that came out. Something funny happened on the way of the moon, I think it was called.
Yes. Yes.
That was a good one where he demonstrated he had footage that wasn't supposed to come out that showed how they faked the look of the Earth outside the window of the supposed Gemini capsule or whatever. And as you begin to look into those things, it just became more and more obvious, how much of a fraud it was. And back then, we didn't really have the tools. If anybody wanted to sort of analyze it and look into it, we didn't really have, HD cameras and the abilities to pixel peep, and get into the details of what they were showing to prove, how fake it was. But then as technology improved, now it's so blatantly obvious that, their stuff is totally fake. And like you said, all of their so-called Earth pictures from space are completely bogus CGI. And then the fact that they can't even keep the size of the continents consistent in those pictures. You've got some that the North America looks like you would think it would, and then other ones it looks like it's gigantic compared to the other continents. I mean, it's just so sloppy. And I'm trying to remember the name of that guy who said that he was hired by NASA to be one of their artists, and he was one of the early ones to come out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about Matt Boyland, who
Matt,
does,
well, yeah, and I actually met him here in Vegas one time. He was an interesting guy, but yeah, and he was talking about how NASA hired him because he was so good of an artist. He was one of those artists who could create something and make it look like a photograph, and that's a really intense skill that not many people have. And then of course the inside information came to him at a party one time where they told him, "Hey, this is all just nonsense. We live on a flat plane, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I what really got me started was his first, and I kind of looked at it and just kind of scratched my head, didn't give it a whole lot of, just kind of filed it away as, I'm not sure about that. And then when Mark came out with his flat Earth clues, I just started deep diving down that rabbit hole and I went, oh my God, this is absolutely the way it is. All right.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, now that's what got me in going with it. And then there's been so many proofs since then. I mean, because people that have never looked into this will bring up the same exact questions. Well, how about this? And how come the ships disappear over the horizon? Right?
Right.
And they
Right.
don't. They absolutely don't. If you have a zoom a P900 or P1000 camera or a telescope, I mean, our vision is limited, but when you use one of those devices, the ships don't disappear. You just see them, as far as
They
they
just
could
get
be.
really, really small until they're smaller than the angular resolution that your eye can decipher.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or they get blocked by some sort of, haze or atmospheric stuff, because the atmosphere right at the surface is really, it's a lot thicker. So the farther something is away, the harder it is to see through that thickest layer straight across. And, It's just funny that it's once you start looking at it and you start studying like the effects of how your eyes work and how far you can see versus how far they tell you you can see, it's kind of a trip. That's like the number one, thing. We were recording people at one of my events and going around asking everybody, "What's your number one flat Earth proof?" And hands down, most people said we could see too far. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that was one of the things that made so much sense to me as, if you look down a row of light poles or something like that, and you can see the way, the light poles look like they keep shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. But if you went down to that very last light pole, it's the same size as the first one, but we have limitations on our vision
Hmm.
and things like that, like you're talking about. And so it becomes incredibly obvious. And, uh, people don't understand that, and they'll say, well, how come I can't see the Eiffel Tower from New York City, and make absurd questions like that. And of course, like you said, the atmosphere in a lot of places is super polluted. There's a lot of particles in the atmosphere. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere.
Hmm.
And so our vision is not, number one, we can't see that far anyway. But number two, even if it was, if we could see thousands of miles with our eyes, you wouldn't be able to anyway because of all the particulate that's in the atmosphere. So it's just, and people will keep asking those same questions, and
Hmm.
it's funny how that works. But so you've organized quite a few flat Earth events, and generally, I've noticed, I haven't been to any of them yet, but I've noticed from the video footage and all that, it's really there's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of really great people that come to the events and just have a great time because these are people that have open minds, and they're people that are willing to look at the possibilities of this place that we live on. And what's your take on, there's so many different theories because there's a lot of things we can never know because we don't have the ability to go, you know, horizontally past the ice wall or past the, what we're calling Antarctica. What's your feeling? Are we in a puddle, one of many puddles, or how do you think about that?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's possible, but like you say, we'll never know. I actually don't even give that part of it beyond what we know much thought because I'm much more concerned with this place that we're in, you know? And so I actually don't really think about that very much, but I guess it's possible. But I feel like this place that we're in is like part of, the universe that we're concerned with, that we all know, I think there's levels, it seems to me, it seems like it would make sense that there's levels that go up and down, um, almost like a game.
Mm-hmm.
But could we be a puddle and there could be others? I mean, there could be.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I'm not against it, but that I don't really think about too much because I feel like it's just it will always be an unknown. You
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. There's no way for us to know, but there's tons of theories out there, but we can definitely rule out the whole idea that we're hurtling through space and that we're orbiting and spinning and wobbling and all this nonsense that NASA has done. And then another question people will say, well, why in the world would they do that? Why would they just tell us these bogus stories about the world and where we live? Well, number one thing that comes to my mind is the Big Bang Theory doesn't work unless you unless you are on a spinning ball that exploded from nothing and
Right.
created this giant universe that's continually spreading out and moving out. And then I will ask somebody, well, if that's true, how come the constellations are in the same place? How come the North Star is in the same place? How come everything spins above us continually like a clock, right?
Yeah, it definitely seems like we are in the center, right?
Yeah, yeah. See, we're and then people don't want to look at that. It's like, wow, no, we're just, and that's another reason why the so-called uh, powers that shouldn't be, they want us to think that we're just minuscule and
Mm.
we have no meaning in the world or in the universe, but it's quite the opposite. And they would like to think we're just kind of like a little speck in this giant universe of spinning orbs and suns and planets and moons and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're a meaningless speck of dust in an
Yep.
infinite universe. Yeah, that's why they lie, because they want people to feel that way about themselves. And if that's one thing over the years I've really noticed is how effective that lie is at disconnecting people from their true purpose in this life, because they become they become like nihilistic, very deprecating, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
we didn't build that, aliens built that, and that kind of crap. Like, they don't think that they're capable of taking care of themselves. They let the government tell them what to do. It's just, once you see like how effective, disconnecting people from the real creation and the creator has allowed people to give over their power to a man. Like, that's why they lie, because it makes them able to tell you a whole plethora of other lies. Well, you believed that one. Now you have no basis of truth. You have no foundation, literally no foundation, physically or spiritually, because you're just a speck on a spinny ball in an infinite vacuum in the fucking scrambler ride, or something. And the
Exactly.
reality is quite the opposite. You're in the center of creation. The creation was made for you. I don't even know that this place would exist without us. People try to tell you, "Oh, the Earth would be so much better if humans disappeared and nature could come back and flourish." And I don't even think I don't. The more I think about it, I'm like, I don't even know that this place would exist if we weren't here.
Yeah, I
Maybe it
mean,
wouldn't. And how would we even know? Because
we
nobody
wouldn't
would
know.
be here to tell you, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't know. Yeah, and that goes back to the age-old question of, if a forest, if a tree falls in the forest, does it actually make a sound and all that kind of stuff, But and yeah, it's fascinating to me, and I'm just blown away by the level of programming and mind control that takes place. And we see it everywhere. And of course, the last 3 years have been proof positive of how easy it is to program people and how easy it is to deceive people into taking magic potions, which potentially could do them in. Uh, it's just sad to me, that, and I don't know, why is it that some of us can see it and some of us can't? I mean, to me, I made an intentional sort of plea to God many, many years ago. Look, I want to know the truth. It may seem crazy, but I want to know. I want to know what truth is. And ever since then, it's things have come to me like a flood. I couldn't I couldn't stop it. And so that's the way I sort of live my life. I don't want to be deceived. I want to know the truth to my best of my ability. And I'm going to say right now, I don't know everything. I don't know close to everything, but
Mm,
there are some things that are blatantly obvious, that many of us have discovered. And the true nature of where we live is one of the big ones that, we can see now. We are on basically a plane that's basically flat, except for mountains and valleys and things like that. But we're not on a spinning ball. That's absolutely so easy to prove.
mhm.
And then, so once you get into that, and people say, well, why is it important? Well, it's important for a lot of reasons, but most of all to show the level of mind control that we've been under. I mean, that's such a foundational thing, right? Where
Mhm.
we live. And once you wrap your head around the fact that they've, totally deceived us on that, then you can begin to understand, all the other things that we've been knocked down and blown away about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, once you find that out, and you learn that you were lied to about that, it really makes you go back and re-examine everything. and then anything new that comes across your path, you really scrutinize that too, because, when you find out you've been fooled to that extent, you're like, all right, or at least my opinion was like, okay, never again. Now I'm paying attention, and now I'm gonna ask questions about everything, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's the way we should always be. And, I encourage everybody to do that. And I would never claim that any of us have all the answers because we do not. But like I said, there are some things that are blatantly obvious if you take the time to look. And,
That's right.
you know, our good friend Dave, who deep inside the rabbit hole, I love that guy, man. He's come out with such great videos showing so many of these things. So I highly recommend his channel on YouTube as well as yours. And we'll put a link to yours so people can find you. Uh, and actually, I think you have about 3 different links, Rockfin. And anyway, I'll put all those links in the description so people can, check out other things that you're up to.
Yeah,
I
we
love
learned
it.
learned to switch to multi-stream because we were getting taken down so much, especially the last 3 years. The
Oh,
censorship was so bad.
oh, well, yesterday I got another video deleted, and I've been, riding the storm of strikes against the channel, and it's so frustrating because you spend years, trying to build a channel and share information with people, and then you realize that the platform you're on is just not liking it, and because they have an agenda, and I don't know how many people really understand that all these big tech companies came out of DARPA. They came out of a defense advanced research, and they've been weaponized against we the people as a form of censorship and as a form of social engineering and ways to shape our minds once again, that mind control thing. Because if you're of the sociopath, psychopath mindset and you want to control the population of the world, that's what you do.
Right.
And once you understand that the roots of all these social media companies, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of them, Instagram, of course, that's an offshoot of Facebook, but all of those companies were started, the startup money came from DARPA. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. It's an acronym DARPA. It's part of the military. So, and now what's your take on, speaking of military, a lot of people talk about what's happening in the world today, and there's the white hats and the black hats and the deep state and the good guys out there trying to, help us. What's your take on all that?
I think there are good people probably in those positions. I don't know to what extent, you know. But I was married to a military man, and I did know a lot of enlisted military people for a long time, and all of them were really good people. I can't, say anything bad about any of the people I met, and I feel like, most of those people care about the country and the people in the country more than they care about following some obscene order, you know? Um, and the other part of that too is with the dollar failing, the the government pays the military in dollars. So, you know, if they if the dollar keeps losing value, it's not gonna the military is gonna find a new form of employment pretty soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to, I don't really like the whole doomsday outlook. I don't like to, get into fear porn. I feel like there's a lot of people fighting back, There's a lot of people who after this whole thing went down of the last 3 years, it seemed like it was a big shaker, right? And like some people came to the top and woke up and other people kind of fell deeper down into the next level of sifting, right? And so, but I've seen people come to us that woke up just in 2020, even people that were like believing in everything and went and got their, magic juice one time. And then even after that, then they woke up and they were like, "Oh." So people are still, coming around, and I'm really, I'm actually pretty positive about the outlook of that because I think I'm seeing a lot of people start to speak out. A lot of people have really had enough with the shenanigans that are being going on because we really get bombarded. I mean, it's like, you know, with all kinds of different, it seems like they've really hit the gas on their on
Well,
their
yeah,
stuff.
years ago, I got into a lot of these things on the political financial side, probably 30 years ago, and we knew that a lot of really ridiculous shenanigans were going on back then, but it was pretty much hidden. It wasn't really out in your face. It wasn't in the public. But now, I mean, like you said, it's full bore. They're going full out right now, and it
Mhm.
makes you wonder if we must be making headway. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to force it to come out so fast. All these different control systems and stuff, and all the massive fear mongering that's going on. The financial system's collapsing. We're another pandemic. It's coming soon. Be scared. Be very scared. And all of that. That makes me think that we're making headway. Because why would they need to accelerate their globalist new world order plans to that extent?
Oh yeah. Yeah, one of the things I like to say is like if they had all the power, then all the propaganda wouldn't be necessary.
Right.
Right? It's just that people have to realize that they have the power, not the government, that no man is really above another. That's the one thing, and that's part of what the whole like package of programming that's been going on over the last century, right? Like everybody thinks anarchy is chaos, but really anarchy just means no rulers, not no rules, right? They
Right.
just it's little government, very little government, but it's like, but everybody's been trained to think a certain way. And there's like a whole slew of different things that they've done that they've been very successful. Like ever since they invented the press was invented, they've been printing propaganda. And it's just now, um, because of like the advancements in technology where everybody has an HD camera and a microphone in their hand, right? Like
Right.
everybody. This
Yep.
used to be like broadcast quality only, right? In the you had to have in the 80s, right, to get something like this. So now it's everywhere, and now it's a lot easier for us to, talk and like, sort of deconstruct things in real time where we weren't doing that before, and they can't, turn it off. All they can do is try to write more algorithms to, try to
Censor.
censor us.
Yeah.
And so what do? We just figure out ways to work around their algorithms, you
Yeah.
know, just jump different platforms or, there's ways around it. We have to be very persistent. And also people have to look for that information. If you're not looking for it, you may miss it because of the censorship.
Yeah, that's true. And I think if you want to know the truth, you have to set out to do something about that. You can't just, flip on NBC or, CNN or think you're going to get anything close to the truth. Because once you realize that big pharma, big banks, big tech, big, entertainment, sports, all of these things are owned by the same people, the same small groups of people. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, all these investment companies, they own massive amounts and controlling amounts of shares in all of these different areas. It's not just one thing. So it's a monolithic type of infiltration that we've had into our culture, very much like President Kennedy talked about the monolithic. Not sure he used that word monolithic enemy or something like that, where he talked about what we're up against. And he recognized it back in the '60s. So imagine how far they got now, and we can see that they've infiltrated every aspect of our society. From local levels. And, of course, the tool is money. The tool in our world that influences and controls these things is money, because people of low moral character or no moral character can easily be bought. Their services can be bought and they can be promoted to positions of influence. And so once you realize that that's what's going on, like you said, ingenuity will come in. Necessity is the mother of invention, so that people will come up with other platforms. And like I think Rumble's a great platform now and is growing really fast.
Mhm.
But you have to find these things. You have to have the intention to want to know more than the propaganda that's being parceled out to us on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why, most people don't see like we do because they just don't ask the questions.
Yeah, and they're not. They don't see the information that we see. And so they don't have the basis to understand a lot of the stuff that we're talking about because they have depended on mainstream sources thinking that somehow that they're going to tell them the truth. And we've been programmed to believe that, and to be obedient to our slave masters. But a lot of us are breaking that mold, and there's more and more every single day, that people are waking up and seeing things for what they are. And I see that Zoom is limiting us. We got a little bit less than 4 minutes, and I didn't want to leave until we talk about your next event that's coming up here in Vegas. So tell us about that.
Yeah, that's going to be October 21st and 22nd, which is a Saturday and a Sunday
Mm-hmm.
in Las Vegas. And I have not released the name of the venue yet.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. But if you go to my website, flatearthfestivals.com or flattoberfest.com, Flattoberfest is the name of the event. So either one of those will put you to the right place for updates. So when we do finally announce it, it will be there.
That's great. Yeah. And like I said earlier, these events are just a great place to meet really smart people, people that are interested in finding out the truth and sharing the truth and all that kind of thing. So I can't wait myself since it's right in my backyard. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's
Yeah,
going to
I
be,
am too, because a lot of people haven't been coming to the events because they've always been on the East Coast. I've got some West Coast people that have been coming, but I know a lot of people just weren't able to make it. And there hasn't been a major Flat Earth event on that far west yet, so it's
Mhm.
a long time coming for
Sure.
sure.
Now, do we know who's going to be speaking besides, yourself will be there. I'm sure Mark Sargent will be there. Uh,
Mark
who
Sargent.
who else have we got lined up?
Jeranism
Oh,
has
great.
already agreed to participate because he hasn't done any events since 2019 as well.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, and
he'll
he's
come
in
back out.
California, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's
Yeah.
really close to Vegas, so it'll be
Hmm.
good for him to go. And I think that's it so far.
Was Bob, what's that guy's name? Bob, that's on Jaron's show quite a bit.
Oh, Bob Nodell, the Glowbusters
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he may be there, but I haven't confirmed that one yet.
Okay, that's great. Well, it's going to be an exciting event, and like I said, there's going to be a lot of really great people there. So I encourage people to check that out. I will put the links to all of that, all of your links in the description of the show, so people can jump on there and keep updated and find out all the details about it once they're released. So I think it's going to be a great thing. Anyway, Karen, unfortunately, Zoom limits us, and so we've only got about a minute left. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for asking me. It's
And
good to be here.
I think we'll definitely do this again as we get closer to the event. And I'd like to also bring on maybe a couple other folks to join us and talk about it. I think that would be fun as well.
Yeah,
So.
that would be great.
Okay. Thank you once again, Karen. Thank you to all of you out there. We appreciate all of you who tune in to our broadcast and wish you well. And until next time, we'll see all of you inside the Matrix.